Pilot schedules can be inconsistent and exhausting. Some days after the final leg, the last thing you want to do is go to the gym. But there's one very important reason to take your health seriously.
Biggest risk for pilots is losing your medical.
Today we're talking with Josh, a pilot health and fitness coach who understands just how demanding life in the cockpit can be. He's worked with pilots as young as 20 and as old as 64 and knows that Instagram abs aren't the goal for everybody.
If you just want to feel better, look better, and perform better, you don't need to be 10% body fat.
He understands that cognitive performance doesn't exist in a vacuum. Reaction time, decision making, they're all linked.
If you master your physical health, you can master your mind, because a strong body is a strong mind.
I know this episode isn't going to be for everybody, but if you care about protecting your medical, performing at your best, and are tired of pretending that chronic fatigue is just a part of the job, it might just be for you. My name's Mitchell. This is the AirPod. Now let's hear a little more about Josh.
Well, I'm a commercial pilot and pilot fitness coach. Was a pilot first and got all my ratings, all that sort of stuff. I have over 1,000 hours now. But the pilot market here in Canada is very slow, so I was flight instructing. And through that flight instructing experience, between having friends at the airlines and just all that sort of stuff and seeing people at the job, I realized that there was a huge demand in the health side of things. Because between the AMEs really cracking down on stuff, and then also people just struggling with their own personal stuff, there's a lot of gaps left between fatigue and pains and stuff like that. So that's where I saw this gap where there's not many jobs happening right now, and I have this traction online because I started posting on social media about a year ago. So I'm young, so I took the leap of just going all in on my fitness business, and it's been going good so far. And I just help give pilots a realistic approach that works no matter if you're halfway across the world, in Tokyo in a hotel room, or at home with your full gym.
And it was a nice cross section for me too, because obviously, I've had the pilot background, have been around aviation my entire life, but also pretty interested in the fitness side of things. I was an athlete most of my life and just trying to stay healthy. And I resonated a lot with just how that stuff starts to slip once you get into the professional environment. What did you see with the pilots that you were working with, or even before you started your business, that made you think like this is not a sustainable way for people to live?
I saw a lot of pilots making the excuse of, oh, it's just a job. And they're gaining 2 pounds a year, and they're having back pains, especially if they're taller in the cockpits. And there's having all these issues where it just wasn't the case. Because I also had pilot friends who were in extremely good shape and the same age, if not older. So I was like, where is the disconnect happening here? And that's when I just realized it was just an excuse that most pilots were hiding behind. So instead of attacking pilots with that, I just said, here's a realistic solution, and you can still have the healthy lifestyle while not giving up your career.
Yeah. And the excuse thing, I think in any industry, people are prone to that. It's a hard thing to just accept, like, I have not been taking care of myself and I just need to buckle down and have the discipline. But on the pilot side, especially, the schedules are so tough and people are not doing the same schedule all the time. It's hard to have an easy routine that you can stick to because your flight schedules might change and all that. What was it about the aviation side that made you say they need a specific, pilot fitness coach versus just the general fitness advice that's out there?
It's a great question. When I was in flight school myself, I remember getting fitness programs from a few people that I looked up to. But even in flight school, I didn't really resonate with them because they're like, oh, just go to the gym at 9 a.m. while I'm in class and flying by 9 a.m. Like, it just didn't really work. And then, if they ever tried to say pilot lingo, it was always kind of cringy because they didn't know anything about the industry. So that's when I really realized, like, a lot of pilots aren't taking the leap to invest in their health because they think no one hears them. So if I come in and just talk their lingo and tell them I understand that, like, changing time zones and flying through the night and not trying to snack and all these issues you're going through is fixable because I've done it and I've helped other people do it. And that's what pilots really needed. And I realized that is we need someone who actually understands and is not just a, personal trainer who has never stepped foot in a plane before.
Mm-hmm. And beyond just the scheduling, what about generic health and fitness advice fails pilots?
Consistency. The job is the definition of inconsistency. So it's so easy to fall into the loop of just not having a schedule on, off. And you have these highs when you're off. And then the second the schedule hits, you're not doing your thing anymore because the schedule has completely ruined it. So learning to find consistency with a very inconsistent lifestyle is where you'll see success. And that comes to just having a realistic approach. And instead of going all or nothing, just doing something.
Hmm. When you're talking with pilots, what do you see as the hidden challenges that maybe they're not aware of before they come to you? You know, the schedules are tough. You're in hotels all the time. Maybe there's stress levels that they're not even consciously aware of. What do you see as their biggest challenges that they're not even aware of when they come to you?
The biggest challenge I see that we fix right away in my autopilot method is sleep. Because if you're getting bad sleep, everything else crumbles. And obviously, getting sleep, especially if you're working a very hectic schedule, if you're changing time zones, is hard, but you need to treat sleep like a job. Because
Hmm.
without good sleep, you start craving more, you start skipping the gym, you start scrolling more. It's a whole effect that compounds and just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. So, the major one I see a lot of is fatigue. Pilots come to me, they're fatigued, and because of that, they're gaining weight, they're eating worse foods, they're scrolling more, and it really always comes down to sleep, usually because they're only getting 3 to 5 to 6 hours of sleep because they're waking up at 3 a.m. or they're halfway across the world and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple posts that you've made too, where it's like, even if they're getting the 8 hours, they're not waking up feeling rested. Is it just that inconsistent sleep schedule where they're constantly having to change? You know, I'm working nights, I'm working mornings, or just the changing time zones? What about getting the full 8 hours but still feeling fatigued is an issue for pilots?
Well, quantity, a lot of pilots do get, like you just mentioned, the whole 8 hours, but the quality is where a lot of pilots suffer because you're sleeping in hotel rooms. Maybe there's a party next door, or maybe there's people walking in the hallway, or maybe you're one of those people who gets very anxious about missing their alarms, or they're waking up every few hours to think about that. There's so many things that go into it when you're not in your own bed and just comfortable in your own home. So that is where a lot of pilots struggle with quality. A lot get the quantity, they think, but the quality is where you actually recover in the REM sleep.
I resonate very much with that. I was just in Orlando and one, people very loud all night long. So waking up all night. And then two, we had a flight back. It was supposed to be early day before yesterday. So Monday morning, early Monday morning. And waking up, checking the alarm, all that stuff. And the added stress of the weather on the East Coast right now has been terrible. And like, is the flight going to get canceled? And then that one got canceled. So I'm up trying to rebook. And then I'm like sleeping for another hour and then wake up and that flight's canceled. So I totally get that. What do pilots ignore about health and wellness?
How simple it is. It's not easy, but it's simple. Just doing the little things will take you so much further. So instead of just sitting at your gate before your flight, walk for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Instead of taking the tram to the terminal, just walk to the terminal. Instead of eating that fast food, just bring healthy snacks or just fast throughout the whole flight if it's a short enough flight. Like, there's just little things that you can do that you can start today. You don't have to wait for the January 1st, or you don't have to wait for the perfect time. Just start doing the little things, build one habit up. After 21 days, which is the amount of time that it takes to build a habit, add another one, add another one. Then before you know it, a year later, it's going to be 2027, and you're going to have all these habits that make you a different person.
Mm-hmm. You think people just try to do too many habits at once?
100%. A lot of people love the 75 hard or the keto diet or all these extremes. But you have to remember, if you're over here eating fast food, never walking more than 3,000 steps a day, getting bad sleep, never been to the gym, and then you go all the way over here to walking 10,000 steps a day, eating only lettuce and chicken, and then, like, trying to sleep 9 hours and, going to the gym 6 days a week, you're gonna fail because it's way too extreme. But what if we meet in the middle and just do a little bit of all, like get 5 to 10,000 steps, try and get proper sleep, work out 3 times a week, and then just track your food. Not even healthy, just track. There's literally a study that people who just track their food, scientists didn't tell them what to eat, nothing like that. They literally lost 5 pounds in the first week just because they became aware of how much they're eating.
Yeah. I think most people have no idea how much. I
Yeah,
hear so
totally.
many times like, "Oh, I only eat, 2,000 calories a day or 1,500 calories a day and I'm still gaining weight." Like, I don't think you're actually eating 1,500 calories a day.
No, no, 1,500 is very low.
Very low. Yeah. People are like, it's just chicken and salads and yeah, but you dump a pound of dressing on the salad and, you have a
Yeah,
cookie afterwards and all. Yep.
exactly.
You mentioned that pilots make excuses, and you've seen that there really aren't excuses in aviation. People can do it. There are people ahead of you that have done it. They're working out. They're pilots working for major carriers and super in shape, super fit. But some people think that just because they work that job, they can't do it. What's the biggest excuse that you hear from pilots about why they can't be more healthy?
I don't have the time. That's a huge one I hear because of their schedule, which it is true. It is hard, but it's still simple in the way of you do have the time to read the post, to comment that you don't have the time, or you do have the time to do other things like watch a movie or watch TV shows. So it's not about the time, it's more about your priorities because these people they just mentioned online, I obviously know them too. I study them very closely, and it's not easy by any means. It's not that they just are randomly 10% body fat and shredded. They did a lot of work. They meal prep all their meals. They track every single gram of food that goes in their mouth. They get proper sleep as much as they can. They don't drink. Like they go to the extreme. So not that you have to go to that extreme, but you have to take an initiative to make it a priority. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. Because not everyone wants to be 10% body fat and tracking every single, bite they put in their mouth, but you do have to change something if you want something different because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you haven't changed anything, but you're complaining about how nothing's changed, well, you haven't changed anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and the 10% body fat thing, I don't think people realize how difficult that really is.
It's hard.
It's Instagram makes it seem like it's commonplace, and it is not. That is a very hard place to be. But like you said, just making steps in the right direction will make you feel so much better. I'm one that swings from one side to the other. I'll be very strict about, just eating healthy and tracking everything, and I'll do that for 6 months, and then I get tired of it, and I'm like, okay, back to Oreos and milkshakes, and the back and forth. But if I could find that middle ground, I think myself and a lot of other people would be just better off overall.
100%. It's all about making it a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing is my best client so far, he's 58 and he came to me at 310 pounds, 6'5", and he needed to lose the weight. And he's just had a super unhealthy lifestyle up to that point, just stopping at McDonald's at 3 a.m. on the way back from the airport, just doing all these bad habits. Like he didn't walk more than 3,000 steps a day and just all these sort of things. And he actually had a medical before that point where he had to get a bunch of tests done, blood work, sleep tests, my sleep apnea, all these sort of things because of his weight. So he came to me and he's like, I just need help. And I told him, just start tracking your food, just eat a little bit cleaner. And then as the months went on, we kept eating cleaner and cleaner. And point of where I'm going with this is that he just made it a lifestyle. I told him, eat in the way that you want to eat in another 10, 20, 30 years. Don't eat like you're just doing this for the weight loss. Eat like you want to. And sure enough, he fell in love with eating the plain yogurt and the honey and the fruits. And he fell in love with eating the chicken, beef. He fell in love with eating all the healthier options while still enjoying life. Because that's a big misconception is, oh, if I cut out all the bad stuff, I can't enjoy life. And it's like, no, 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 you can still enjoy life. It's just switching your definition of enjoyment to a more healthier one. That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and feeling better
all.
makes it
100%.
that much more enjoyable too. It's like, yeah, maybe, the yogurt and the honey isn't as good as Rocky Road ice cream, but when you wake up feeling bloated and like crap and you can barely wake up in the morning versus feeling energized all day. That makes it worthwhile, in my opinion.
100%. Like, he was kind of hard to work with at the beginning, I'll be honest, because he did not want to walk more than 5,000 steps. He's like, "I'm sore. This sucks." He didn't really wanna eat the clean food. He was still kinda having, the odd Tim Hortons, kinda like a Dunkin' Donuts of Canada and,
Hmm.
McDonald's. But after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, he's like, "Whoa, like, I'm actually feeling better. Like, I'm waking up with more energy. I'm not as fatigue throughout the day. I'm actually feeling good. I'm feeling lighter. My belt is going down." Like all these things started to snowball. And then that's when he's like you said, "Oh, I actually kind of do like this yogurt." And because it's not about the taste per se, it's like, "Oh, I love how this makes me feel." And if you don't stick with it long enough, this is why you always hear me preach about consistency. You're never going to see the results of what that consistency will give you. Because if you do anything for a day, you don't see the result of it. But if you do it for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months, that's where you see the result. And I guarantee you the feeling you'll get from that, you won't go back. It's addicting.
Yeah. Fitness is funny like that too, where it's got to get worse before it gets better.
100%.
And, like he said, I'm sore. Like, yeah, you're going to be sore, especially if you've never worked out before and you're not used to that feeling. It's going to hurt and it's going to suck. And to do that every day and even eating healthy, like in my own experience, when I go through that 6 months of eating the Oreos and milkshakes, and I'm like, okay, enough of that. I got to get back into it. I'll have headaches for like a week straight when I'm eating healthy food because my body's like, no, I want the sugar stuff again. But you got to push through that feeling like crap for a little bit and then you come out better on the other side of it. And then when you try to go back to eating like crap, then you get the headaches and stuff in reverse too.
And it's kind of a wave. Life is a bunch of highs and lows. So a lot of people think, "Oh, I just started my fitness journey. I'm never going to go back." It's not the case. It's just about doing better than yesterday. So if yesterday you had 8 Oreos and today you only had 6, that's progress. But a lot of people think they just have to go cold turkey, which it doesn't work for everybody because you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. But even for me, myself, when I was just home in Bahamas about a month ago, and I don't usually eat pizza, pasta, all that sort of stuff, but on this trip, I was like, "You know what? Out with family, let me just have it." And it made me feel so bad that I won't have it again because I've been doing it for so long. Maybe if I go to Italy or something, but not, like in North America. So the point being is that if you just stick with the consistency for long enough, when your old habits do come back, because your old life is always going to call the second you level up, you won't feel the urge to have it anymore. Because you can be like, "Wait a second, like I actually feel better. Like I don't want these Oreos or I don't want this ice cream." And the beautiful part too is that if you do still crave sweets, you can just do it in a healthier way. Like there's healthier ice creams or there's homemade Oreos that you can make. And again, it takes a little bit of effort, but you can still get the same result while feeling way better.
Hmm. How does pilot health impact performance in the cockpit?
Cognitive function is huge in the cockpit. It's a very draining job. So if you can treat your body like how you treat your career, very serious, and you actually put the work into it, you get the benefits out of that. Fatigue isn't there as much. You're not running on caffeine. Your alertness is there, which means that, throughout that night flight, you're not reaching for snacks and just trying to get that sugar hit because you're fine. Like your body's healthy because a lot of pilots I see, they don't treat their body good. They're running on Big Macs and they're crushing Red Bulls and all these sort of stuff because they want the brain benefits. Caffeine's a huge topic in the industry. And I don't think anything's bad with caffeine. I used to be a huge energy drink guy myself. I try and stay away from those as much as possible, but black coffee actually has good benefits to it. But the difference is you don't want to use it as a crutch. You want to use it as a tool. So you should already feel good, but then the coffee just helps you give that boost because when you really do prioritize your health, you see it in the cockpit. You're quicker with the ATC clearance and you're quicker to, see other planes in the sky. You're quicker to just react because you're not as slow mentally.
Yeah. I I remember they might have talked about it in flight school too, but I definitely remember from learning to drive. It's like your fatigue. I forget the exact numbers, but at a certain level, your fatigue is equivalent to like driving on 2 drinks of alcohol or 3 drinks of alcohol. And, same in the cockpit where if you're just tired all the time, or like you said, using caffeine as a crutch and, you're 6 hours into an 8 hour flight and you ran out of Red Bull and you're trying to shoot like a Cat 3 ILS into some busy airspace somewhere, like that's not a good place to be.
No. And that's the thing is a lot of pilots rely on these things to get by when really, like we talked about at the beginning, if you just fix your sleep, a lot of this gets fixed because when you get the proper sleep, you wake up feeling good. You're not going to crave and have that donut at 9 a.m. like you usually do, or chug that coffee right after waking up. And then you go throughout the day and you actually perform well on the job. And because of that, and you wreck your sleep because of more caffeine, you go to bed again and you sleep even better. And then you can see how it's just all you know, it's upward spiral, I like to call it. Because a lot of pilots are in a downward spiral. There's more and more caffeine fatigue. But if you can get in the upward spiral, then you don't, again, rely on it. I'm not saying you can never have caffeine again. I personally love caffeine too as a tool, but it's just if you're using it as a crutch, it's not a good situation to be in.
How do people break that cycle of, I've experienced it where I stay up late and then I'm groggy in the morning, or I sleep in and then it just seems to perpetuate. I'm naturally a night owl anyway, so it's hard for me to fall asleep at like 9 o'clock. Like I'm a 11 to midnight kind of guy. And if I'm having to get up at 6 and then, I'm exhausted, and it just continues that cycle of staying up till midnight, being exhausted, waking up late, using caffeine to get through the day. Then I drank caffeine too late in the day and now I'm staying up later. So how do you recommend your clients break that cycle?
Well, the hardest part about the job, like we said, is consistency. So circadian rhythm is always broken for the most part with pilots because especially if you fly early mornings and all that sort of stuff. But my biggest recommendation is watch what you do before bed. So really treat sleep like a job, but more specifically, that means what you do before you go to sleep because your morning starts the night before. Because if you are just unleashing a bunch of free dopamine in your head from scrolling social media then trying to go to sleep, of course you're not going to fall asleep. But if for some people it's an hour, some people it's 2 hours. For me, it's about an hour and a half. If an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours before you go to bed, you're reading, you're journaling, maybe meditating, doing whatever you have to do to get off that blue light and just really calm your mind really helps you because if you just are scrolling on social media then try and go to bed a minute later, of course it's not gonna work. You have to give your body time to actually slow down. And that's why I'm a huge advocate too of making it as dark as possible in your room to tell your body it's time for bed. Because especially here in Canada where there's no sunlight during the winter, we have to kind of make it up artificially. So at night I have my room very, very dark, like an hour and a half before I go to bed. And then in the morning, you want to make it as bright as possible and kind of have like an artificial sun to tell your body it's daytime. Because if you wake up and it's dark for the first hour, that's where you're groggy and kind of walking through the hallway, like almost falling asleep. But you have to like really artificially, I would say, create that circadian rhythm and try and stay as consistent as it you can with it. It depends your job. Like if you're flying long haul or flying like short haul, it's way different. But if you can really control what you do before bed, you'll have a way better day after.
hmm What do you recommend people use to get that artificial light, or just like house lights enough? Or do you recommend like some of the daylight lamps? Because just a quick story, I've listened to like Andrew Huberman talk about this, where you want to get that natural sunlight within the first 30 minutes or whatever of waking up and, go on a walk. But like you, I lived in North Dakota for a while, and in the winter, the sun's not up till like 9 a.m. and I'm waking up at 6. So where do I get my sunlight first thing in the morning?
It's a great question. So since being in Canada, I had to figure this out myself because like you said, I wake up at 5:36 and the sun isn't up. So for me, what I found is I just turn on all the lights in my basement. So when I wake up, just turn my room light on, bathroom light, hallway light on, just everything on. So it's instantly bright. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want to spike your cortisol more, which is your stress hormone. But The thing is that cortisol is already what woke you up, so you don't have to worry about that. You have to worry about telling your body it's daytime, so you don't go back into bed or you don't scroll for an hour or just do the lower energy activities. And a huge part too to help wake your body up is you are the most dehydrated you are ever in the day in the morning because you just went 8, 9 hours without sleeping. So I tell all my clients to do this is take 24 to 32 ounces of water, add a little bit of pinch of sea salt just for electrolytes, and just chug that in the morning. And then through the rest of the day, just drink water whenever. Hydration is a huge part of why pilots feel fatigued throughout the day, especially when you're in the cockpit. It's drier than a desert. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and to go through so another job I worked before this, we would do like nighttime patrols looking for um trying to think what I'm allowed to say. It was like kind of aerial surveillance stuff, but I was in the back seat running the sensor. But nighttime stuff, we were unpressurized but high altitude. So, 10, 11,000 feet unpressurized, it's dry, and through the night. But we're in a little Cessna, and there's no bathroom, right? So I'm like trying to selectively dehydrate through the night. So it's like the nighttime plus the high altitude plus try not to drink too much, or I'm not going to have to pee in a Gatorade bottle in the back.
yeah.
I can definitely see where the dehydration hits people, especially my buddy that was just on the last episode that I recorded is a cargo pilot for Atlas Air. And, he's doing 12, 14-hour legs. And like, yeah, they have a bathroom on board, but that's still a long time to be up in the air. So aside from just drinking first thing in the morning, do you recommend like element powders or any electrolyte boosters, or is it just drinking water as best you can?
A lot of those electrolyte powders have like artificial sweeteners in them and all that sort of stuff. And they just cost a lot of money. For the most part, unless you're sweating a lot, you don't need electrolytes except for in the morning. So I just recommend water throughout the day. But if you do need a little bit of electrolytes, a pinch of sea salt does the trick. Maybe a little bit of lemon if you want to too, but don't overdo it. I mean, it's just costs more money, and also you don't know really what are in those powders.
Yeah. Back to the fitness side of things. So I constantly go through the battle of like, do I want to strength train? Do I want to work on cardio, mobility? Like I'm notoriously immobile. My flexibility is awful and always has been. For your clients and just pilots in general, what do you recommend they should focus on between the three?
It really depends their goal, but I always think pilots should build up as much muscle as they can. So strength training is very huge because especially in a very demanding job where you're sitting a lot, you're losing a lot of muscle, especially if you're not eating enough protein and not training at all. So I recommend if you are on the lower side of muscle, strength training for sure, because that's going to eventually help you with mobility because you're going to be stronger. But definitely throwing in a mobility workout once or twice a week does not hurt, especially if you already are struggling with it, because then that way you can help prevent any further struggles in the future. But I would say strength training is the most important because putting on muscle is way more than just looks. It helps with so many benefits, including longevity.
hmm And what are some of the risks long term for people that are ignoring their fitness?
Biggest risk for pilots is losing your medical, especially depending on where you are in your health journey. I know here in Canada, the AMEs are cracking down a lot on anything over 30 BMI. You have to get sleep tests and blood work and all this sort of stuff. So that alone is a huge reason to get in shape. But
hmm
for your own self, like it's just the little things that will help you enjoy your career longer. Showing up to work and it not be as hard to get into the airplane seat and, having that mental alertness and not fatigued when you fly and just feeling good in your own skin, just like how you feel good in your own body, or sorry, how you feel good in your own uniform because you work for that uniform. Same thing with your body. That you just feel nice to actually feel good in what you created. Because it's just like your flight school. Everyone puts so much discipline into flight school, and then once you get to the airlines or their dream job, they kind of just let everything go. But if you took that same discipline and put it into your health, you'll feel so much better because especially if you have a family, you can play with your kids. It goes into so many directions, but health and working on your health will never stab you in the back.
Yeah. And people don't want to go down the road of having to deal with all the medical stuff, especially I don't know how it compares with Canada, but in the US, it is a nightmare. I mean, it is just backlogged for months and months, and getting the FAA to make any movement, any progress on any of that is just not a fun road to go down.
And yeah, there's a lot of jokes too you see online about like, never tell the FAA about your mental health situation, all that sort of stuff. A big part of fitness is that, movement is medicine. So I heard this saying that's so true is never trust a thought inside. And all that means is that never trust a thought when you are stagnant. That's why a swamp is so dirty. It's because it doesn't move. But a river is so clean because it's always moving and it's always clear. So you don't have to admit anything to the FAA, but I think a lot of these pilots who are struggling just aren't moving enough. And if they just moved, a lot of these problems that they think they have would not really be problems. And I'm not saying there's not actual problems out there, but I'm just saying that you don't want to play a game of your career on the line just because of your health not being in order.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to the fitness look, we talked about, building muscle can help the aesthetics too, but there's things I've seen, like I said, I've been into fitness for a long time, so I think everybody who goes down that journey eventually gets into some of the bodybuilding community and seeing some of the choices they make in terms of, anabolics and that kind of stuff. What's the difference between looking fit and being fit?
Well, would you say like the difference between being healthy and not being healthy?
Yeah, that's
Or
probably a good way. Yeah, because I think, a lot of people that are maybe lay people look at bodybuilders and, not everybody thinks this because they are a little extreme, but, they're like, oh, they must be in really good shape because they got the big muscles. But you would see some of them, and mobility is a huge one where like they can barely move around. I mean, you see some of them walk and they're just like so stiff, or, the negative health effects that come with some steroid use and stuff like that. So when people are seeing that, what would you recommend to somebody if they're scrolling Instagram, they're like, "Oh, I wanna look like this guy," and that person maybe not may not be in the highest level of health just because they look that way?
it's a great question because everyone falls into this. I do too. Like I'll be scrolling sometimes, I see someone, I'm like, whoa, they look amazing. But the biggest thing that I can't stand is when you see these people and they say they're natural, but then they're taking stuff on the back end. I can't stand that because then let's just say you see it and you're like, oh, I want to look like him. And you're trying to do everything. You're eating the same meals, you're working out the same. And you're like, why don't I look like him? Well, it's because he's blasting TRT and you don't even know that. So I do know that 90% of the industry, because I've talked to a lot of people, is on something. So a lot of people you see online are not natural. And if you are going to compare yourself, just go down the realization that, like you said, they're not that healthy. Like when you're blasting all this stuff, you got that on top of it, but then also adding that amount of stress on your body will make you look good, but it's not healthy for your body per se. You talked about extreme. They do take it to the extreme of bodybuilding. It's like you don't need that much muscle to actually have longevity benefits. It actually takes to the too far extreme of it actually hurts you. So between putting too much muscle on and stressing out your body, God knows what's in their body from what they, take, because a lot of them take way more than TRT. And honestly, their diet too. When you're blasting testosterone, you don't have to eat healthy. That's why you see a dirty bulk is very common in bodybuilding because no matter what they eat, it doesn't affect their hormones. So they could eat 10 pounds of ice cream, they're still going to feel good because they're injecting hormones. But me and you, who are naturals, if we go eat 10 pounds of ice cream, we're going to feel terrible because we had no micronutrients and we produce testosterone and hormones naturally in our body. So it's a very slippery slope to go down. I personally would not recommend comparing yourself to anybody online. You can get inspiration, but just be very aware that unless you know them very well, there's a high chance they're on something and you're never going to look like them. So don't put your happiness on something unless you want to take the stuff. It's up to you. But if you want to stay natural, you won't look like them. They're just not natural.
And it sets an unhealthy precedent too, where
100%.
people are like, even if the ones that are natural, like you said, the 10% body fats, maybe there's a few people that can maintain that long term, but 10% and especially single digit body fat, even for naturals, is like just wearing down the body.
Yeah.
People talk about how their sleep suffers and they feel like crap all the time and they have no energy and they're just getting, quote unquote, show ready. Maybe they're doing a photo shoot because they're an Instagram model, or maybe they're actually doing fitness competitions or doing natural bodybuilding competitions. And they only stay at those levels for a very limited period of time because their body's just wearing down constantly. I think it's important that people realize that even the ones that do it naturally, it's not sustainable. Like the stuff they post online is not how they are 365 days a year.
No, 100%. And it all comes down to my favorite word, which is intention. You just have to know what your intention is. Like, if you just want to feel better, look better, and perform better, you don't need to be 10% body fat and shredded and have, 30-inch biceps. Like, all you have to do is just eat a little bit healthier, walk a little bit every single day, treat sleep like a job, and lift 3 to 4 times a week. And it's just following the simple things.
When it comes to working out, I wanted to ask you this one because I traveled a lot for work. There was one year I spent 160 nights in hotel rooms.
Wow.
Trying to stay consistent on just eating healthy, one, is challenging enough, but two, you have like this workout plan that you're really hyped up about, and maybe you can't get to an actual gym. You're using the hotel gym. And I think we've all seen them where they call it a gym. You walk in, it's like one treadmill and 3 sets of dumbbells. So, what's your best hack for working out in an environment like that?
The best hack is to do something. That's where I like to start off with because a lot of pilots do just that. They walk in, they're like, "Oh, I can't do anything with this." And yes, is it not optimal for progressive overload and building muscle? 100%. But it's even worse to do nothing. So you might as well go in, get the heaviest weight you can on the dumbbells or whatever you can use there, and just do something to at least maintain your muscle. So when you are back home in your ideal gym, you can work on progressive overload there. Because I think a lot of pilots, they have this all or nothing mindset where it's just like, oh, doesn't match my workout, I can't work out. When it's like you can just do something. So that's why I give my clients perfectly even a hotel room workout. So that even if they don't even have a hotel gym, let's just say it's closed for whatever reason, they can still do something. And what that really does is just takes the excuse out of not being consistent. Because again, if you don't have consistency, you don't have anything.
That's good advice. I was really bad for walking in the hotel gym being like, no, not
We've
doing
all
it.
done it. We've all done it. Yeah.
I want to get on to some of your clients because I've seen some really cool success stories that you've been posting on your Instagram. So, maybe first, what's your typical client profile? Are you working with students? Are you working with commercial pilots, CFIs, everything in between?
Everything in between. Funny enough, I actually do have people who are as young as 20 and as old as 64. So I
Oh,
have
wow.
everyone in between. Majority of my clients, though, are airline captains who are just established in their job. They have been around long enough to understand their own patterns and they just know they need to change. That's the major one. And yeah, it's usually who I see the most. Sometimes first officers, very limited people in flight school because they're very new and they're just, they have that high of everything's going to be good and they're just busy with flight school. But I do actually have a few flight school students, but for the most part, it's people 30 and up.
Cool. Do you have one or two standout stories that really just stick out in your mind as like amazing success stories with transformations?
100%. My best one yet is Doug. He's an airline captain here in North America. And when I was first starting my business, I was really struggling with who I was going to help because I knew I had this extreme passion for helping people get in shape because I went through my extreme journey of going from a vegetarian for 19 years to completely 180ing, fixing my acne, all this sort of stuff. And I also had a huge drive, obviously, for aviation. At this time, I was a flight instructor, over 1,000 hours, but I was lost in what to do because I didn't want to just help general people with fitness because everyone does that. And Doug came to me and he was 310 pounds, 6'5", and he was super frustrated. He just had a medical a few months before that, and he had to do sleep tests, blood work tests, and pretty much the Amy told him, like, if you don't lose any weight, like, you're probably gonna have to be put on a sleep machine for sleep apnea and just all these sort of stuff. So he came to me and he's just like, Josh, like, I need help. Like, I feel terrible. I've never been this heavy before. I keep adding 2 to 4 pounds a year. It's just slowly creeping up. And I'm like, okay, just do this. So we just got him doing the basics. Just got him walking from 3,000 steps to 10,000 steps a day, non negotiable, and just tracking his food and when possible, making better decisions. Not even going to the gym, not even really doing anything else. After a few weeks, he lost already like 5, 10 pounds. It was going very good. He started feeling better. So we started adding a little bit of gym routines, adding some sleep hacks to really, get everything pushing more. And now we are just over 6 months in. He's down 54 pounds. He just had his follow up 1 year with his AME for his medical. And when he walked in, the doctor didn't even recognize him. And he said, "What happened to you?" And he had to get all his testing redone, new sleep test, new blood work, no more sleep apnea. And he was so happy. And I was so happy for him because he completely shifted his life in less than a year. Like, it was less than 7 months. He went from 310 pounds all the way down to, 256 pounds, which is insane.
Yeah, go Doug. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. And
Uh,
now he's almost 60 years old and he went from complaining about walking 3,000 steps to telling me now he wants to do a marathon before 60 years old.
Dang,
So it's just like
that's cool.
we talk about how, you don't want to eat bad foods, or sorry, you do want to eat bad foods, but then once you start feeling it, you don't. Same here. Like, you don't even want to move, but then once you start feeling good, you go from complaining about 3,000 steps to running a marathon. It's just, you got to trust the process. And most importantly, just start.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. The people that come to you, I would imagine a lot of them have tried stuff in the past. What do people usually try before coming to you? Like, what's their breaking point to saying, I can't do this on my own, I need help?
It's a great question. And the thing is that it's 2026. All the information's out there. So even my program, I don't sell information because you can get information. We have ChatGPT, we have Google, we have YouTube, we have all these apps. There's so many things that it's not about the information. People know within a few minutes, if you did a little bit of research, how many calories you have to eat. You could ask ChatGPT for a meal plan. You could ask ChatGPT for a workout plan. It's the accountability that people need. They need somebody checking in and saying, "Hey, Mitchell, how did the last week go? Where's your progress photos?" All that sort of stuff to actually do it. Because I see all the time, it's not about the information, it's about actually implementing the information. Because it's the same thing as me giving you a brand new Gulfstream and then you not flying it for a year. That's like me giving you my program. I can give you my perfect program that works, but if you don't use it, it doesn't matter. So a lot of people, they have everything they need in their phone. They have their workout, meals, everything, but they don't do anything. And then they get frustrated when they don't see results, but it's because they didn't implement anything.
Hmm.
Accountability is everyone's number one thing when they come to me. Is I just need someone to tell me what to do, that I don't have to guess if it's going to work. I just know it's going to work, and you just hold me accountable.
What do you think makes the difference when they do come to you? What makes it stick this time versus all the other times they've tried?
I give them the full system, that there's no guessing. I make sure that they're not like, "Are you sure I should do this? Are you sure I should do this?" It's just like, "Okay, I'll do this." And within the first 2 to 4 weeks, they see huge results. And then they start trusting the program even more. And then that's where they see the extreme results of actually losing the 54 pounds or having their AME not recognize them and just stuff like that, that really stand out.
What patterns do you see in your most successful clients versus the ones that, I mean, everybody, right? Like, if you have a business, you're going to have clients that come to you and just don't do the program, or, it doesn't work for whatever reason. So what are the patterns or the habits you see in your most successful clients versus the ones that maybe aren't working out as well?
They just trust me and they just put in the work. It's that simple. The clients that I've had that are unsuccessful so far, just didn't put in the work. They're like, "Oh, the program doesn't work." Well, if you don't use it, just like the Gulf Stream, if you don't fly the Gulf Stream, of course it's not gonna move. So same with the program. Like, the people that really strive in this, like Doug, who lost 54 pounds in just over 6 months, he just put in the work. I was like, "Do this, do this, do this." He's like, "Done." And he did it every single day. And that is a pattern that I love to work with because those are my best clients because they just do the work. And that's how you see the result. You have to do it. If you don't do it, of course you're not going to see the result.
Yeah. It's the same. I don't want to glamorize steroids, but same with steroids. Like people see huge guys on steroids, they're like, oh, they're just injecting. It's like, well, no, they're also in the gym, like kicking their own ass
Exactly.
every day. Like you don't just inject and suddenly you just blow up like that episode of SpongeBob where he's got the inflatable arms,
Yeah,
right? Like,
literally.
um, for people that are just getting started, maybe they haven't tried anything in the past or they're just ready to start their fitness journey. Let's go through some different levels. So maybe there's a student pilot that hasn't made it to their airline level yet, but they know that fitness is going to be a big deal long term. What would you recommend for a student that's very, very early on in their career?
Yeah. So when I talk to pilots or student pilots, I should say, on Instagram or even a few of my clients, I tell them to build habits that you want to have in the future. So if you can hold them through flight school, which is a very demanding time, flight school is like drinking out of a fire hydrant. Like, it's just so much information that you literally don't have time for anything else. So if you can build healthy habits now, you will keep them into the future, or there's a high probability, because I can't guarantee anything, but it's a high probability that the younger that you can instill habits, you will keep it in the future. So it's just start now. That's my favorite 2 words, is just start now, because everyone loves to put things off. "Oh, once I get to the airlines and making 6 figures and comfortable in my job, then I'll pay for the gym membership." But let's be honest, you're probably not gonna do that.
Yeah, never works out that way.
No.
Okay, next step up. They're past the student now, they're CFI, they're teaching other students. What would you recommend to them?
I'd recommend the same advice. When I was instructing, I was working very long days. I was really trying to get as many hours as I could in that summer period, because when winter came around, there was not many flying opportunities, so I was working 12, 14-hour days, maybe pushing legal a little bit, but I was working hard. And my biggest advice is same thing. Just start now and just build the habits now. Like, I was bringing my own meals in a glass container, drinking my water throughout the day, just doing all this sort of stuff, treating sleep like a job, even though it was hard. Like, I'd get home some nights and go straight to bed and then wake up at 6 a.m. and do the same thing over again. I didn't really have much time for me, but it's just remembering that there's seasons in life. It's not always going to be like this. Like, just because I'm working 12, 14 hours a day today doesn't mean I'll be doing that in 5 years. So instead of saying, oh, I only have 2 hours off, let me go watch TV because I want to enjoy my life, it's like, no, let me still go to the gym because it will make me a better person in the future.
Sure. Okay, CFI has gotten hired. They're at a regional now, but they're doing, I don't know, 6 flights a day at little tiny airports across the country. Maybe they can't bring the glass containers with their lunch. Maybe they're stuck trying to find something around the airport. What's your recommendation?
In that case, just eat as healthy as you can. And there is still options at the airport to eat. Like, if you really even had to, just get burgers without the bun, just have the beef, just stay alive as much as you can and just make better choices. Again, it's all about doing something. I hear it a lot with regional pilots. They're like, you don't understand. It's 6 turnarounds in a day. It's a lot. I hear you. But are you just going to do nothing for the next 2, 3 years when you're building your hours, or are you going to just do something?
And then last one, legacy carrier, international captain. Maybe he's only flying a couple routes a month, but he's doing 10 hours overseas. What's your recommendation there?
You're in a sweet spot here because, especially if you're flying long haul and you're only flying a few times a month, you can pretty much build a routine at home. And then when those long flights come, you just prepare for them. A few days before, get your meals ready, get your proper sleep, all this sort of stuff. And when you do travel to different time zones, just keep the same time zone as your home base, because you won't have enough time to actually transition your body to that new time zone. For example, I had a client who flew from Chile to Melbourne, Australia, 14-hour time change, only a 24-hour layover. You're not going to adjust in that time. So he just stuck to his home time Chile time zone, went to the gym at 2 a.m., still did everything, and then flew right back. So when you're more senior into your career, you actually have more time to prioritize into your health. It's still not easy, but it's more simple.
Mm-hmm. When somebody's starting their journey, I see a lot of people focusing on things that in the grand scheme don't matter that much. I mean, you see the interviews with oh gosh, I just watched one today. The guy that's doing like the longevity studies on himself. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah. I
if
know
you
what
know
you're
who I'm
talking
talking
about.
about. Um, but people watch that kind of stuff and they want to do all the little things he's doing, like he's doing the red light therapy and he's doing the dry saunas and all this stuff, but they don't even have a workout plan, or they're not even, they don't have a diet, but
Yeah.
they're worried about seed oils. So what stuff should people not overthink early on?
Until you have the four basics that you hear me preach all the time about, which is treat sleep like a job, move every day, 10,000 steps ideally, eat proper foods like whole foods, don't care about what they're cooked in yet, and just lift weights 3 times a week, you shouldn't have to worry about any of that. Because just like you said, people will not eat a food because it's cooked in canola oil, but then go drink a whole bottle of wine or have like 10 shots of tequila. And it's just like, it's not like there's bigger fish to fry at the beginning. Like, until you really control the controllables, which are the four basic controllables, these little micro things are only like 20% of the equation. Those four things are 80% of the equation. And where people fall into that trap is they see social media. Like you said, that one guy, they see these people with these quick tips, like, oh, you're gonna lose like 10 pounds if you just cut out seed oils. No. You see the most progress from just doing the basics. It's so unsexy, it's so boring, but it just works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people get analysis paralysis a lot of the time. It's like, oh, I got to do these 100 little, health hacks. It's like, I got to worry about my microplastics, and this artificial sweetener is worse than this one. And it's like, yeah, but you just drank a large Diet Coke and ate a Big Mac and fries. That doesn't matter.
Exactly.
What's a small and realistic change that a pilot could make today? They said, I've had enough. I want to start doing something to improve my health right now. What can they do today?
Treat sleep like a job. It's the best thing you can do. Protect the last 2 hours every day before bed like anything else, because your morning starts the night before. So get off your phone an hour before bed at least. Read, journal, meditate. I don't care what you do. Just don't be on your phone. Relax your mind so you actually fall asleep so you can get high quality sleep, not quantity, like we talked about, high quality. And from there, everything will start to traject upwards.
Moving on to the mental health thing, we talked about it a little bit, and I don't want to go too deep into it because I know there's a lot of other nuance to this, but I'm much in agreement with you where improving your physical health will very much improve your mental health. Why do you think burnout is so common in aviation?
People overestimate how much they can do when they feel good. So I felt it myself when I was flight instructing. I was working like 6, 7 days a week, flying like 8, 10 hours a day. And it's like, oh, I feel good. I'm getting hours. I'm getting paid, all this sort of stuff. I can keep doing this. But then eventually you start to burn out. And it's about remembering what can you do or what can you see yourself doing, shall I say, in 10, 20, 30 years once this feeling leaves. Because whether it be your health or your career, both things in aviation, you say yes to a lot of things when you feel good, but you forget that like that feeling of feeling good is going to wear off, and it goes back to the all or nothing. It's like, oh, I'm going to go all in on this. And then you feel bad. You go do nothing when it's like, let's just meet in the middle. Let's do something.
One thing that I like from some of the other fitness people I follow that create programs is the rest day is part of the program. Like I'm very prone to feeling like I'm slacking off on a rest day. And I would say most people, the majority of the average population probably doesn't have this problem. But when I go into it, like you said, all or nothing, I want to go all in and I want to be lifting weights 7 days a week or doing something. And you can burn your body out just as much as you can burn your mind out too, where you just don't give yourself a minute to relax and recover.
100%. A lot of people get confused when I say you only have to work out 3 times a week because they're like, "That's not enough." Like, and you could argue, yes, you could work out 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times a week. But the problem with pilots is that you're not getting enough rest, like you talked about, to make that adequate. Because rest is just as important as working hard in the gym. Because rest is actually where the muscle is built. Because in the gym, you tear the muscle, and then rest is where new muscle fibers are built. And then obviously, when you eat, that's where you get the fuel to build those new muscle fibers. So just like in your career, if you're always working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, you're never taking time for yourself and you're getting 4 hours of sleep, of course you're eating Chick-fil-A all the time. And of course you're skipping the gym. And of course you don't feel like doing anything else but scrolling after work because you're not taking any time to actually recharge your battery.
Hmm. Hazardous attitudes we talk about a lot in aviation, on the flight side. When it goes outside of the cockpit, do you see those hazardous attitudes carry over? Because I think a lot of pilots like to believe, well, every pilot likes to believe that they don't exhibit any of them because we're trained like these are bad, don't do these. I used to run a flight operation, and I would always tell my pilots that hazardous attitudes aren't a reflection of you as a person. Like you aren't a person who's macho, you aren't a person who's invulnerable, but it's about recognizing situations that can make you exhibit those attitudes. And everyone's prone to that. Like there's a situation for every single person where they can exhibit those attitudes. Where do you see that outside of the cockpit when it comes to health, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to mental health, where pilots are saying, I'm not, I can't experience that. I'm a pilot, or, it's too hard for me to do all these workout routines. Like I'm just not going to try. I'm going to give up on it. Do you experience that a lot?
100%. People that I talk to that are unsuccessful with their own fitness or maybe when they come to my program is always because their ego gets in the way. Ego is a very powerful thing. I mean, hey, I've had a ton of ego deaths since starting my business because, you know, ego is there to protect you. It's like your little brother, but it will hurt you if you don't move it aside for it sometimes. And a lot of pilots, they say, "Oh, I don't need you. Like, you don't understand." And luckily, I've been able to kill a lot of those arguments with just between my clients and just doing my own research. But there's still pilots out there who just don't want to take advice. They're like, I'll figure it out eventually. I don't need, accountability, all this sort of stuff. When really, if they were to have just put their ego aside, just followed, let's just say my program, and just did the work, they could be down 54 pounds like Doug, who's, by the way, 3 times my age. Doug could have easily said, "You're too young. I'm not going to listen to you."
Mm-hmm.
But then he didn't. He just did the work. He's down 54 pounds, but there's plenty of people I've talked to back in June who are still at the same weight, if not worse. So if you can kill the ego, you can actually make progress.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. You spoke about how pilots will have that kind of, it's not even really a meme because people actually do this where they're like, don't tell the FAA that you have problems. Like, don't go get help for, and not just mental health too, like physical health. Like, oh, my left arm went numb yesterday. I better just ignore that and move on. And
100%.
people just don't want to accept. And I get part of it too. I think there's a lot of issues at the FAA with how they handle health in general, and it's just like the auto deny system, which in some ways is getting better. But pilots being willing to go and get help with stuff and do more preventative measures, like you talked about, like Doug saying, "Hey, I got to get this in check so I can continue my career. I don't need to wait until I have a heart attack, or I don't need to wait until sleep apnea is a thing, and I got to get a waiver to fly with that or whatever." Um, so yeah, I think a lot of people can really carry that hazardous attitude adjustment over outside of the cockpit. And I think a lot of more people should do that, where they just realize like, hey, this exists in all parts of my life, not just when I'm flying.
100%. It's just taking a step back and realizing we're all here to learn. Like no one is knows everything. Like you hear it all the time in aviation, oh, like, always keep learning and stuff. It's the same thing in life. I have a coach. I will always have a coach because I always want to keep learning. And I think everyone should have a coach. And a lot of people have this misconception that if you have a coach, you're weak or something. And it's just not the case. But another thing I like to talk about too is that a lot of people, when they come to me, they have arguments around things they can't control. Like, for example, oh, airlines should give better rest times, or, FAA shouldn't be so strict and stuff like that. While I agree, let's focus on what we can control today. Like,
Hmm.
instead of waiting for the airline to give us an extra hour, 2 hours of sleep, or the FAA being a little bit less strict, which hopefully is in the process as we speak, let's talk about what we can do today to get you better sleep within those 8 hours or to make sure you don't lose your medical with the strict FAA rules. And I'm just a very solution based person in the way of instead of sitting here complaining about what we can't control, because I can't control the FAA, I can't control American Airlines, Delta, whatever. Let's just focus on what we can control today, which is getting better sleep. If you can fix your sleep, everything else will slowly fix itself.
What is it about physical fitness that can help improve mental fitness or physical health and mental health?
I love to believe that physical health is the building block to everything else in life. If you master your physical health, you can master your mind because a strong body is a strong mind. I truly believe that. And when you have a softer body, you have a softer mind because your body is a direct reflection of your mind. So when I was in worse shape in the past, it was because I had a softer mind. But every time I've been in really good shape, my mind has been super sharp. And it's been the same thing to everyone else I've talked to. So when you really master your body and move your body, because movement is medicine, you will see a huge difference in your mind because, again, everything is connected way more than people think.
Yeah. And I'll echo what you said earlier. There's definitely mental uh, ailments that can't be tackled with the physical side, but I would agree with you that for the vast majority of people, as long as you don't have like some deep rooted psychological thing that needs professional attention, like if you're just the average person that has some days where you're feeling down, just getting out and moving your body helps so much.
100%. 100%. Huge.
What's one thing that pilots should stop doing immediately? Is it the scrolling? Is it the staying up too late? Drinking alcohol? What is it that you see commonly that you're like, dude, why are you still doing this?
Not treating sleep seriously. I'm honestly between that and just cutting out all airplane and airport food. Both
Mm,
are pretty huge to me. It really depends your goal. If your goal is strictly to lose as much weight as possible, probably lean towards the food one because seen my clients and I've seen other people just on Instagram as well who have lost 20, 30 pounds just from doing that one thing. But I will stand by it always comes down to sleep. So if you can fix your sleep, you'll probably more than likely come to that conclusion that you should be meal prepping or bringing healthier snacks, or if the flight is short enough, just fasting.
hmm What is it about being a pilot specific coach that matters more so than just a general fitness coach?
To my clients, they just love that I speak their lingo. I understand their schedules. I understand their struggles. I actually know what an Airbus looks like. I don't call it Airbus a 737. Just little things like that that just make them trust me more because I'm not just giving them a chat GBT thing that just says, hey, like, go to the gym at 12 p.m. when it's like I'm over the Atlantic, you know, maybe not 12 p.m., but you know what I mean. So it's just talking their lingo in that way.
Okay. And what does your program do differently than others?
I focus on making sure that they implement everything and they have everything to do just that. So there's never any guesswork when you come in. I give you everything that you need, and then I'm there at any time via text, and we do calls once a month to make sure that you always have support to implement everything that I teach you.
Who benefits the most from structured coaching like that?
People who just struggle to do things on themselves, because there are people out there that just see the meal plan, see the fitness plan, and they go do it. But if you've been trying things and it's not working, then there's no shame in getting a coach. I have had coaches in the past. I still have coaches now, and I'll always have coaches in the future. So I'm living proof of having a coach is worth it. And I know everyone else that's successful, Chris Bumston, Arnold, all these people, they all had coaches. So the top of the top have coaches. Why not you?
Yeah. I I'll say one piece on that too is you can be a self-starter in parts of your life and not in other parts. I'm that way. There's things that I will happily just take on and tackle on my own, and other things where I feel like, I want to tell myself like I'm the self-starter, I can do it on my own. And realistically, I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna do it in other parts of my life. So I think it's triaging that and figuring out which areas you're good to do on your own and which ones you can use that extra assistance.
100%.
What should pilots look for in any coach that they're talking to?
For pilots, I would make sure you find a coach that understands what you're going through. That's the number one like complaint I get is, my personal trainer from my little town, he's amazing, but he doesn't understand that, I fly at 3:30 in the morning and I'm sleeping in the afternoon, or just little things like that that will get very annoying if your coach doesn't understand the unique lifestyle that you have, because pilots have unique lifestyles and a lot of people don't understand that.
Mhm. How should someone recognize when doing it themselves isn't working?
If you have tried and then tried and then tried and you're still in the same spot, I like to call it the roller coaster. So you go up, down, side, up, all that sort of stuff, but you start right where you finish, just like a roller coaster. If you keep on going through that process, you have to change something, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I see it all the time where, oh no, I'll figure it out eventually, but you've been doing the same thing for 10 years and you've gone up in weight. Like you just gotta take it as a point to be like, you know what? Let me just try something new.
What's advice that you would give your younger self?
You know the two words. Just start. I live and die by that, because even in flight school, I started flight training at 16. I'm a person, when I have an idea, I just go after it. And I don't see any point in not starting, because all that time that you're sitting around planning, you could have just been starting and figuring it out.
Mhm.
And of course, when it comes to flight training, there's finances and stuff involved, but everyone has advantages in life. You just got to figure out what your advantages are and just use them and just start.
Yeah, there's a great mantra I saw one time that uh, I'm gonna paraphrase, but it basically said, "Don't not do something because it's gonna take a long time because that time's gonna pass anyway." And
100%.
I've caught myself so many times, like, I remember my younger self being like, "No, I don't wanna do that. That's gonna take 5 years." And while I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "Oh, that was 10 years ago." Like, I'd be 5 years into whatever it was. Um, yeah, people just I think, like you talked about earlier, they wait until the perfect time, like, "Oh, when I get to the airlines, I'll do this." I've seen a lot of comments from some of the stuff I've been posting where people are like, well, the hiring's slowing down and like I'm just starting flight school. Like maybe this isn't a good time to start, or they're thinking about starting flight school. And it's like, well, yeah, but when the hiring picks back up, if you're going to wait till then to start, one, you're never going to know when that is. And if you wait till then till start, by the time you're done with it, the hiring's over again.
Yeah.
So
And the
go ahead.
world's always coming to an end in some way. Like, you hear the whole rebuttal of, oh, pilots aren't going to be needed because of AI. That's not true. Like, there's still 737s, A320s being built every single day with two-man cockpits, or two-person cockpits, I should say.
Hmm.
And you hear all this sort of stuff that, that's another one. We're not going to, like, pilots are slowing down the hiring process. And it's like, well, no, like, it's going to pick up. But like you said beautifully, time will pass anyway. So no matter if it's with flight school, those 2, 3 years are going to pass anywhere, or if it's with your fitness journey, those 6 months that seem like nothing, you could have lost 54 pounds. Like, it's like time is going to pass. It's just, what are you going to do with it to make sure you're not in the same spot as when you started?
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Just at Josh Ageeb on everything: TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
And then a final message that you would give to pilots who feel too busy to start.
Do something. Even if it is as little as getting an extra 2,000 steps in the terminal before your next flight. Just do something that you usually wouldn't do, and then from there, build. After the 2,000 steps, have one healthy meal a day. Once you crack that down, add something else, and eventually you'll change who you are.
Josh, it was a pleasure, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mitchell. It was amazing.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to hear more from aviation professionals just like Josh, you can subscribe to the AirPod on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. I will see you right back here on the AirPod.